Great defeaters, new and old, welcome to a very special episode of The Breakdown with your hosts, BaseDaKID, Tony, the Pugilist Boy. We are the children of the game. Tony, how you doing, man?
Yeah, brother, I'm really good. Good to be here again.
Right,
Just to
let's let the people know real quick. So this is pre-recorded for the first time and probably the only time, but that's purely because as I'm talking to you, Tony is enjoying the wonderful comedy stylings of our great defeater host and one of the overlords, Travis J, on the stage right now for the opening night of his show, Son of David. Hey. And yeah, we support Trav wholeheartedly, and yeah, we decided that rather than me try and do a makeshift show without my co-hosts, and not me going necessarily to the opening night, same as Tony. I'm going over the weekend, so you will see me there then. But he wanted to go to that opening night, make it extra special. So can't hate that. That's why we're doing this as is. Tony, back to you.
hi guys. Hope you're all well. Thanks for joining us as usual. To all those that are regular followers of the show, sorry I couldn't be there, but hey, I'm sure you're going to enjoy the next while we take you through the fight from the last weekend, which of course was Arthur King Beterbiev versus the common man Joe Smith Jr. So this
Right.
was a unification, and it was a highly anticipated one. I think last week we both kind of were slightly differing in terms of our opinion of how this fight was going to go. I was figuring that there was a potential for an upset from Joe Smith Jr. And of course, you got that result bang on, maybe a little bit earlier than you expected, but
Yep.
you got the result right.
I think
So,
earlier than everyone expected, to be totally honest with you. No
yeah.
one, no one saw that coming. But yeah,
Yeah. So let's have a look at some of the action. I've managed to snatch a bit of unlicensed footage. So let's have a look. You can have a chat while this is going on.
right. Now, one of the things that I really liked about this was after the first round when Artur Beterbiev decided to literally just box and move and become a pure boxer rather than to be the forward pressure fighter. And as we saw there, he basically every time that Joe Smith Jr. was throwing, he was just getting to the target first because he throws his shots a lot shorter and a lot cleaner because his limbs aren't as long, so they don't have as far to travel. And then in the pocket right here, that was also his sweet spot because again, his limbs had further to had less space to travel than what Joe Smith Jr.'s did. And then we look at this the setup uppercut coming in a moment after that thudding double jab hit to the body, brought the arms down so he didn't know where it was coming from. Caught him to the side of the head, to the temple, had him falling in. Then right now we're gonna see that opening. What was it? It was a right uppercut first, I believe. No, it was a
Left.
left. Set it up with the left, with the right. And the brilliant thing about that is when you look at it, no shot that he threw did you see him actually load up any power. He legit everything was just a fluid motion, and that in itself just tells you that he's got that natural, like God-given power that you don't have to. He doesn't have to generate it; it just literally comes from the hip, and that's a very dangerous tool to have. Anyone can be an explosive puncher, but to be a naturally hard puncher who doesn't have to deliver the power means that you don't tire out as quickly because everything is just armed. It's just arms. It's just mechanics.
Yeah.
What do
I
you
mean,
think?
what you made an absolutely fantastic point there, because there are some people who are naturally gifted with heavy hands, and we can go back in the annals of history. Obviously, Mike Tyson comes to mind. Deontay Wilder, a heavy-handed guy. He doesn't necessarily throw with bad intentions in the same way that Iron Mike would throw his whole shoulder, hip into a shot, but he still generates huge power. And then, of course, you go back, you're looking at, Larry Holmes, Ernie Shavers, those guys, big
Can't
hitters,
forget Shannon Briggs.
Shannon Bad Boy Briggs, you know. But yeah, it's interesting. I look at the way Beterbiev trains, and what was interesting for me was preparing to watch this fight. I watched a lot of footage of Artur Beterbiev training. Thank you, Danny from Fight Fan, who provided some of that footage. But I watched quite a bit of his footage training. I saw some of the pre-show 24/7 type show, which was very interesting.
Blood, sweat, and
charting,
tears. Yeah,
charting his move to Canada, and the move with the family. But what I did pick up from the show was that ethic of working, and the way he trains himself to throw punches, looking at the hammer technique that he uses, where he picks up large hammers and hits them against
the tire.
A tire. And some of those little things that he does that are so different to the way other people train. And you kind of look and go, this guy is different. He's built different. And as you said, he doesn't need to load up in order to generate huge power. He's just a massively concussive puncher. By the fact that you see he's got every person he's fought, he's stopped. And in terms of the footage that we just watched, I looked and see some of those timing shots were so beautiful. There's one shot in particular where he dips to the left and he throws a left hook into the body, and it's such a beautiful shot. It's actually one of my all-time favorite shots, when you slip the jab and just come charging in with a left hook into the body. Not many guys read that, and when thrown really well, it's a shot that takes out a guy. I've seen plenty of guys get taken out with that shot. Joe Smith did well. He was obviously hugely rocked by that first knockdown that was received in the first round, and I just don't think he ever recovered. He was on tenterhooks the whole of the second round, but Beterbiev is just a real consummate finisher, and the way he finished it was superb. So I really enjoyed what the two rounds that there were. Joe Smith, bless him, he tried his best, but he just wasn't able to compete with this guy, and it was fodder in the end.
Do you know? No, the thing is, right? You know what you say is funny, because in those 2 rounds, as much as it wasn't even 2 complete rounds, and you could say, oh, there wasn't a lot of action, that there was a whole lot of different dynamics and styles that were applied. Like if you look at the way the fight starts, like Joe Smith Jr. actually at the start of the fight had the correct game plan for Artur Beterbiev. Like ultimately, you back him up behind the jab, a hard jab, not just obviously like some soft tappy hit and move, but you back him up, you take it to him early while he might be sort of just trying to assess and understand what's going on. But the one problem that Joe Smith Jr. did is he abandoned that almost straight away to try and load up a big right hand, which is like, it was almost like he thought to himself, I need to take this guy out in the first round. Now, that in itself was weird, but you see, Beterbiev said to himself, okay, as soon as he came out with the jab, he's like, oh, okay, so you're doing that one. All right, I'm going to show you that I'm not just going to stand here and take this heavy jab. I'm going to box. You see him. You see the way he moved on the back foot, lateral movement as well, side to side, angling off. Every time he kind of felt the ropes, he spun off of the ropes. Like he's showing skills that he hasn't really had to show in quite a while, just because he's normally the guy coming forward on his opponent. But he said, no, all right, we're going to do this one. And because you're so, like, you're reaching with everything, he just started to make him overreach, especially when the right hand came into play, and he literally was making him overreach, and he was catching him as he's overreaching, as he's now off balance. And ultimately, that's how that the check right hook happened, or the pull counter he did, like not the flashy one, but he did the pull counter to knock him into the ropes onto his knee at first place. Like he made him overstep. He made him think he was in rage, took one step back, then angled the shoulder, bang, over the top as he's flying in. And that in itself, in that first round, just showed you 3 different dynamics. Because he started to press him to come forward to make him think he was safer to start throwing those shots. And once he did that, that's why Joe Smith Jr. then, he just stopped. He stopped thinking about the game plan behind that jab, the double jab, which was working in that first minute. And
Yeah.
that's how Beterbiev lulled him into that false sense of, oh, okay, we're gonna have a phone booth scrap, and yeah, just step back and made him miss and made him pay, and then he just repeated the cycle in the second round. But he then became the pressure fighter and said, okay, now I've done the back foot thing. Now let's see if you can handle what I can give to you. And lo and behold, Joe Smith couldn't.
Yeah, and he does a great setup of his uppercuts, because what he does is he throws the overhand right in an almost typical Golovkin style, where it hits right on the top of the head.
Yeah.
And what that gets you to do is raise your hands up, because you're kind of trying to protect that overhand right, which then
And split the
opens you
guard.
up for the uppercut. So
Yeah.
beautifully constructed finishes. Absolute pleasure to watch that guy. And lo and behold, that of course sets up his next fight, which somewhat contentiously is supposed to be Anthony Yarde. But let's talk about this scenario.
Okay.
Because
Now this is the fight I think everybody wants to see. Everyone's been dying for Undisputed at light heavyweight for God knows how long. We've never had a light heavyweight Undisputed champion in the 4-belt era. This does seem to be the era of first and where Undisputed matters. So it will definitely be something that everyone wants to watch. And this is a very interesting contrast of styles, because ultimately Beterbiev will go back to his pressure in nature, so which normally is supposed to be the kryptonite of a pure boxer like Dimitri Bivol. But the difference between a Dimitri Bivol type pure boxer is that he actually is able to move his upper half and his torso as well as his legs. He hits and moves, but he's not like a soft, he's not a soft-handed puncher. Like, he hits you enough that he still gains your respect. Like, you don't just come walking straight in on him. And the first sort of 12 to 13 fights he had, where he was actually stopping guys and making, and really putting his stamp on things, shows you that he definitely has got the power to take people out. I feel like there's just been maybe 1 or 2 fights where he said, okay, rather than put myself in a vulnerable position where I could get countered, let me just make these fights easy. So I'm just going to box. Yeah, if I get the chance to take you out, I will do, but I'm not going to do that at the sake of my own safety and protection, because it's about hit and not get hit. And I feel like there's a few fights recently whereby if he really wanted to, especially like the Salamov fight, he could have stopped Salamov. There's others that I would say he could have stopped. He maybe even could have stopped Canelo if he really wanted to, but rather than put himself in a vulnerable position where sometimes you go for the kill and then you stop sticking to the defense and sticking to the game plan, he said, nope, I'm dedicated and I'm in control of myself, so I don't need to go out of character, because what I'm doing is working. And he's very game plan orientated, and that's something that would be good to see against someone like Beterbiev, who also has a game plan, but his game plan is to make you work a lot more than you want to work, to push you around, to tire you out mentally with the pressure, like the educated pressure as well. It's not just standard come forward B level. It's proper high class chess, along with punches that you just don't want to be taking from a guy as heavy handed as he is. So yeah, outside of the Anthony Yarde thing, that's the reason I want to see that fight, to see who really is like the best light heavyweight in the world.
Yeah, and I think you got it right when you said chess match, because this to me is a chess match. These are two kings, going up against one another if it happens. And to me, the key is distance control. The guy who's able to control distance better will be the winner of this fight. I actually like Bivol's footwork better than I like Beterbiev. I think Bivol has a little bit more languid of a style and is able to move in and out better. But Beterbiev is, as you said, a really good, effective pressure fighter. So it is going to boil down to who will be able to control distance better. I'm not going to go any further than that, but that to me is the key to the battle. In terms of making this fight happen, obviously there's issues to take place between rival fractions in Top Rank and Matchroom promotions. Obviously, Anthony Yarde is the mandatory right now. Bob Arum is talking up the fight and looking to bring Beterbiev over to London in order to fight Anthony Yarde. But let's be honest, Beterbiev himself said the fight he wants is Bivol. And, you know, I hope he gets his wish. That's the one we all want to see.
Well, that's the thing. I
So,
mean, both of them have said it. They've both said, I want Undisputed. I want the winner of the other fight. So realistically, as much as Bob Arum might want Yard to have the shot or to say to work with Frank, obviously they're trying to do the two-pronged attack thing with, you know, trying to team up against obviously the Matchroom conglomerate and whatever. Fine. But even with the narrative of Yard being the mandatory, like technically he's not even a mandatory and no mandatory's been called. He's just #1 in the rankings. However he got there, whether we think that's right or wrong, is irrelevant. But they're like, okay, well, let's deal with it now before that even takes place. But Beterbiev on big ESPN said that match doesn't interest me. Undisputed interests me. I want to unify. I want to be unified. We've heard Bivol say it numerous times. So as much as Bob might say, oh, well, no one knows who Bivol is, etc. Well, 600,000 people in America know who he is now because he took on the cash cow of boxing in America and beat him in front of more people than the last 3 pay-per-views that ESPN done put together on the app that no one watches supposedly. So there's not really much more way for you to try and poo-poo and act like this guy is not known by people, because he's known by more people than Beterbiev is at this point. And he's probably got a lot more options than Beterbiev has in terms of next fights anyway. So you want to do, and Beterbiev isn't dumb. He knows, look, I might be towards the back end of my prime. I'm still in a prime, but I'm towards the back end of it. I don't want to get old. Like, I want it now when I'm still fresh and feel like I'm the best I can be. He doesn't want to be trying to take that fight a year or 2 years down the line when he's almost touching 40 years old, still having to make 175 pounds. He wants it now. And all he has to do realistically, if he puts the pressure on Bob, Bob's got no choice but to do it. And the thing is, Eddie, as much as, you know, he's for the zone, we've seen how many times Eddie will offer to send the guy over to the rival platform. All right, you don't want to fight over here? Cool. I'll send my man over there. And he's got no problem doing that. So, like, I feel that Bob just needs to get out of everyone's way at this point and let the people have the fight that they want.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you on that one. You know, let the people see the Undisputed. You know, we've had it so many times. And let's be honest, Bob's just inherited, or how can I put it? He's stolen Devin Haney from Matchroom for a 2-fight deal. You know, Kambosos has invoked the rematch clause, so you know he's getting the second part of that deal. You know, he should be willing to allow Beterbiev to come the other way. You know, that would seem only fair, but of course, you know, Bob isn't a fair guy. We know that through history. You know, he's done it over and over again. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that one plays out. We look forward to seeing, you know, what transpires going forward. I did want to talk about, very briefly, a decision that was reached in the middle of the week with regard to Edgar Berlanga. So last week we reviewed his fight, and obviously we highlighted the fact that he was caught on camera taking a bite at his opponent Angulo. And, you know, we were wondering at the time, you know, we even talked about the possibility of some kind of sanction happening. And lo and behold, it's happened. He's been given a 6-month ban. What are your thoughts on that, Base?
If I'm totally honest, it's kind of crappy, to be honest, if I'm honest with you, purely because in this day and age, it's not like fighters are fighting every like 5 to 6 weeks like they used to. Like, more time than not, they're fighting within 6 months. He even said that his next fight is gonna be but this is before the ban came out. He said like he's looking to fight again, I think in December, which is 6 months away. So this is before the ban even came out. So realistically, he's not lost anything by this ban. The only thing he's lost is $10,000, which for the act of what he's done, whether or not he fully sank his teeth into him or whatever else, like it was a flagrant foul, and it was a mark on the sport, and just a mark on it's like a bad representation of just the sport in general, because it's not bare knuckle boxing, it's not no holds barred, like it has rules for a reason, and you've gone against like the regularity of what is acceptable, and is taking it away from pugilism, which is a strike and a fist only sport. You've now made it almost a street fight, which it's not. So I mean, the only kind of ban that would have like been sensible in this kind of day and age would have been like 9 to 12 months, just because again 6 months does nothing. It hasn't delayed any schedule, it hasn't changed anything. He's going to be fighting again in December, at very worst he'll fight in January, which is the timeline he was on to begin with. So it's not really a substantial one in my opinion. The 10 grand, okay, cool, because he probably is not earning super amounts anyway. That might affect him a bit more. But yeah, the fact they've done something, cool. But what they've done changes nothing, and it doesn't deter him from possibly doing that again if he really wanted to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that one. So without any further delay, we'll move on. So yeah, that's really about it in terms of fights from the weekend. There was an undercard fight, which I just glimpsed a small amount of, so I can't really comment on it. So what have we got going on this weekend? I actually haven't got any graphics for this weekend. I know
That's
what's
cool.
going on.
That's
Let's
cool.
talk about it.
No, so this weekend we've got Bam Rodriguez against Sulfikat Rungvisai for the WBC super flyweight championship. Obviously, Bam came up from light flyweight previously. nice improvisation there. And he was so he came up from 108 pounds all the way up to 115, two weight classes, and beat Quadras to become the WBC champion. Because obviously Estrada was given the franchise title in order to make the third Chocolatito fight happen, which hasn't come about yet. But on that card as well, it's a stacked four championship bout match. Card, so got Jessica McCaskill against Lara Ibarra. You've got Julio Cesar Martinez against Arroyo, Williams Arroyo, and then you've got Akhmadaliev against Ronnie Rios. Like, that's all on the main card. Like, that is just 4 fights steeped in pure violence. It's it's going to be one of those cards where even in any technicalities and technical boxing that you might see, it's pure violence. It's heavy hands. It's who lands first, who lands hardest, and who can take the punishment, because there's no fight on that initial main broadcast that's going to be a chess match. Everything is going to be toe to toe, and it's just about who can implement their actions quicker than their opponent, and maybe, if possible, just miss a shot that's gonna affect them, and just apply that shot to the other person. But yeah, this is the kind of card you show to a casual fan if you want to get them into the sport, because as I said, pure violence, nothing but. And I'm looking forward to it so much.
Which one of those fights are you actually most looking forward to out of the 4?
You know what? I think out of all of those 4, my fight that I'm looking forward to the most is Martinez against Arroyo. I think that fight is going to be. I think the main event might have a little bit more nuance in it, because obviously Bam is not a natural 115-pounder as of yet, so he's still got to be a bit more cautious when it comes to taking Rungvisai's power, because that power is legit. But you've got Martinez and Arroyo, who know nothing but come forward and swing it out. And yeah, that's literally, to me, is going to be sort of, I feel like that's going to be fight of the night. It definitely doesn't go the distance. And yeah, I just got a feeling that Martinez he's gonna take him out.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the McCaskill Ibarra fight. Is just there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 titles on. What the hell? How's there's 5 titles on
Because she's
one fight?
undisputed and the Ring Magazine champion as well.
Hang on, what have I got here? World Boxing Council,
Yeah,
WBC World Welter, WBA World Welter, IBF World Welter, WBO World Welter, and the
Ring
IBO
Magazine
World Welter.
and the Ring Magazine as well.
And so this is a 6-belt
Yeah, she has
unification.
everything.
Wow.
And
Wow.
this is definitely going to be her hardest fight because Ibarra has come down over the years from I think 168.
Mm,
So McCaskill came up from 135. Let's not forget to
yeah.
147. She to most of her fights, she's not even coming at the 147 limit. She's coming in and around sort of like 142, 143. Because when she
Yeah.
was fighting against Cecilia Brecas, they were fighting at a catch weight of I think
Yeah.
it was 144 or 145, one of those two. So yeah, she's literally never come in at that higher weight, and Arroyo has made her way down over the years. So
Mm,
and she's just as much of a volume puncher as McCaskill is. She hits just as hard, and she's taken harder punches naturally from being at higher weights. So this is definitely going to be Jessica's hardest fight. And if she goes in to fight her normal style of literally like bulldozing mad pressure, that might play into Ibarra's hands a lot more than it plays into Jessica's. I think that might be her strength in this one. So
mm,
I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking forward to every single fight. I'm watching this entire thing from the whole before the bell undercard. Like I'm watching it all,
yeah. And
everything.
surprisingly, you haven't mentioned Akhmadaliev. I mean, to me, I'm interested to see how he performs because I want to see if he comes through this, the fight with Steve Fulton.
Yeah, that's gonna
That's
be the most technical fight on the card because Akhmadaliev does both, and obviously he got the huge amateur background as well. But
mm,
he's, that fight is probably gonna be the least amount of just pure violence out of all of the fights on that main card. But
mm,
that's the only reason I didn't talk about it is because again, I feel like if there's gonna be a fight that's not as exciting as the others, and I think they're all gonna be great, but it's going to be that one. That might be the most chess matchy type of all the bouts, which is why I didn't really speak about it, and I was going to leave it up to you because I know that's your thing.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, look, guys, if you haven't locked in for this one this weekend, from San Antonio, Texas, lock in. There's gonna be 4 world titles, multiple world titles. You've got guys with 2 straps, 5, 6 straps. It's gonna be a good show. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom have put on some equal matches. So lock in for this one. It might not have the headline names like we've seen of late, but this is still a legitimate good card. Even some of the undercards that below those four bouts might be of interest as well. So that concludes. There is one more card coming on this weekend from Coventry, which is Sam Edgington, but we ain't gonna go there because it's a very minor show.
Who's promoting that?
You're
It's
asking
not a
me.
Mick Hennessy card, is it?
It's a boxer show.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a boxer show.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be on Sky. There's only 3 matches where they've actually got the opponent listed on BoxRec. River Bent versus Tyler Denny, Corey Gibbs versus Carlos Perez. But otherwise, everybody on there is a TBA currently with 5 days to go before
So
that.
who else is on there?
Do you know the Irish boys, McKenna? Aaron
Yeah.
McKenna's on there. Adam Azim is on there.
Okay.
Dylan Chima is on there.
Oh,
Reese
he just won the
Edwards.
ultimate boxer the other day.
Yeah. Karis
Oh yeah,
Artinstorm
making her debut. Yeah.
making her debut. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay, I'll probably I probably won't be in because I'll be at the show watching
yeah,
Travis that night. But I'll record it and I can get to it sometime in Sunday
yeah.
after I record the weekend wrap. I'll get around to a couple of those fights.
Cool, cool. So the last subject we want to talk about very briefly is this little bad boy. Got signed this week. Probably got signed way before this week, but the official announcement was made this week. Obviously, there's been a lot of potential head rolling going on Monday Night Smoke in terms of what's going to happen. What's your take on this one, brother?
Um, I mean, look, for the good of UK boxing and maybe boxing in general as a mainstream platform, like this is Anthony Joshua has to do it for everyone. But I like both of these guys as actual boxers. But everyone knows that I am a very big fan of Alexander Usyk. And I think the thing what I took away from the first fight more than anything else is if you remember, even before, forgetting the fight, at the end of the fight, Usyk said the fight wasn't as hard as I expected it to be. That in itself to me was very, very telling because if he expected an even harder fight than what he got there, that means that he's prepared for a harder fight than what happened, which tells me that there was more for him to do. And there was more that he's got in the tank or there's more that he's got in the tool bag to pull out in this next fight. Because chances are he's now going to say, okay, well, what happened the last time? He has to change it up. He has to do what I thought he was going to do the first time. So now it's my time to really get busy. And if that is the case, then Anthony Joshua is in big problems because again, he beat you when you weren't at your best, but he was expecting you to be at your best. So now he knows that you're going to be at your best, or at least going to have a game plan that suits more to his tactics. Like it just apart from I guess catching Usyk cold, or one punch that Usyk doesn't kind of. It's really hard for me to really see how he wins this because if he goes super aggressive, he has to hope he catches him and takes him out before his gas tank runs out. And if he tries to go measured, then Usyk's just going to control the tempo and feint him into submission the same as he did last time. Just mentally fatigue him with the feints. And then this time he might even go through the gears quicker. And the same thing that he did in the 12th round. I mean, if you remember, he caught AJ with a nasty shot. I think it was in round 5 when he came over the top of AJ's. I think AJ put out the right. He slipped it, came over the top, and hit him with the backhand left to like the neck, the jaw, and AJ's whole body went into crisis mode to the point where we had to grab on for dear life to hold on. He caught him. He found his range of AJ in the very first round. Within a minute of the first round, he found the backhand and that range. Like so, there's just a lot. This just I think to me is just stylistically a horrible matchup for AJ. So yes, there's ways he can win, but I just can't see it happening. So obviously no official predictions until closer to time. I need to see weights and see how people do in the public workout and everything. But I just can't see anything past a repeat at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a point that I want to sort of elaborate on, and that's gas tank. So for me, there's obviously been a long extended period of inactivity, but we know AJ. AJ gets in that gym and he works hard. He'll be supremely ready. But what will the gas tank be like? Is he gonna have done anything to prepare himself to throw more punches for longer periods? Because that's what I would have said. If you're gonna be saying, all right, well, we're gonna invoke a rematch, It's going to be in 12 months' time, and we have to get ready for that. Then I'm going out and saying, right, for the next 8 months, all we're working on is throwing 200 punches around for 20 rounds. You know, because I need your engine to last. I need you to not have that lapse that happens when you're, you know, you run out. I don't expect him to be able to do that for 12 rounds, but what I kind of expect him to do is come out, as you said, not to do, but I do expect him to empty the tank, go for the kill, empty the tank, and then it's about recovery. And that's why I would have been preparing him now, because my viewpoint is, I'm telling him, empty your tank in training every day. Learn to recover within 3 minutes. Because what he needs to be able to do is empty the tank 3-4 rounds, jab, move, and don't, you know, catch yourself. You know, one of the things that I've been teaching some of my guys at my boxing class is how to use movement to create breathing space. And believe it or not, it's something very difficult for people to take on board. And when we look at boxing, there's not many fighters who utilize the skill, the capability to say, you know what, I'm tired, but what I can do is I can just dance myself out of this situation. So I move, you know, use the jab, move, keep you on your back foot, or if I'm on my back foot, just keep you at distance while I'm re-energizing myself. Guys who could actually box on their toes, you know, obviously the king was Muhammad Ali, you know, so he could literally be flat-footed and rope-a-dope, and then the next thing he's up on his tongue, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard, another one, you know. Look at the fight with Hagler. You know, there are points in that fight with Hagler. You need to watch that fight. He's physically, you look and he's like, I'm slumped. He gets back in the corner and Angelo gets into him, says, get on your toes. And he comes out and he's on his toes, but he's using boxing to recoup and get back his breath. AJ needs to watch that. He needs to look at those guys who can get on their toes. Larry Holmes is another good example of a guy who can get on his toes and create distance using long jabs and recoup so that you come out of a round later and then you're back in ready to work mode.
But you know, I feel like as much as that is a sound strategy, and that's definitely what he needs to be doing, some people fundamentally, like their body mechanics, just the way they are, doesn't allow them to be able to get that breath, doesn't allow them to be able to, as you say, like try and empty the tank and then try and work on your recovery. And if we remember, even though AJ is like a consummate athlete now, he used to do the smoking and whatnot. So we don't know necessarily what his actual internal structure is like. That might just be the case of his body, his natural physical genetics and makeup at this point, with all the things that he done maybe as a youngster, or that's just naturally ingrained in him. And let's not also forget the amount of weight that he has on his body. A good chunk of it is artificial. It was done via weight, you know, sort of bodybuilding, muscle building, and what. So it's not like he's fighting at a weight that is just functional to his actual frame. He's fighting on a frame that has packed on artificial muscle, which maybe his heart and lungs and everything aren't designed to carry at that high tempo consistently, which is why someone like Joe Joyce, his body is just naturally set that way, which is why he's able to just continuously go and never looks like he gets tired, because his body is just built in that way. Whereas Anthony Joshua's body was created in that way to a lesser extent. So maybe fundamentally it's just a case that he can't do it. So as you said, maybe the strategy might be try, like, it's 4 rounds or nothing. Like, whatever you do, like, literally throw the kitchen sink at him in the first 4 rounds, and if it doesn't work, then just accept that you're about to get KO'd in the 5th or the 6th, because that just might be the way his body's set up. Now that could totally be wrong, but the way we've seen, the way he always moves to us, and we see how he's always strong for like 3-4 rounds, and then it's like there's this period of like four rounds where he needs to now get his breath back, and you can clearly see that the activity and everything drops, and then he has this mad salvo late on when he's got all his energy back charged up. It happens way too often to just be a one-off, or, oh, this guy just made me work more than I wanted to. It's a natural thing. Now, unless it's a mental thing which can be taken out of him, I don't see how that's something that can change in the space of this 10 months. So, yeah, as much as what you're saying is correct, I don't see it. I don't know if that's him. Whereas someone like Usyk, we know, even with the muscle that he's put on, like, his body is just has been used to moving for so long, like it's just adapting, and he hasn't just packed it on over like the course of a year. He's gradually built up from that quote unquote middleweight that Tyson Fury calls him up to now. It's been a slow, gradual process, slow increases over time. It wasn't all just brought, packed onto the body over the space of like a year or 18 months, like AJ would. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the key to that workout is also going to be who you bring in for sparring. You've got to have the right kind of sparring. You got to have fast guys. It wouldn't be unusual. It would not be unusual to be sparring some really good technical boxers from light heavyweight. Because you're telling them go out, do some work, even get some middleweights in. If you've got some really talented middleweights, they could put you through their paces. I was a lightweight. I used to spar all the way up to light heavyweight. I sparred with pros at much higher weights because they would use me for speed work. So it would be interesting to see, and this is something we don't get a lot of these days, to see who he's sparring with.
Yeah.
We know certain people work with certain people. You hear stories. We all know Tony Sims's gym. He's got lions in the camp. That's a proper gym. Them guys there are forging each other. A great stable of fighters. Is AJ working with the right people when it comes to sparring? I'd be interested to see if he's working with a Coley. Who else he wants to bring in. So yeah, going to be interesting.
Well, do you know one thing that's also a bit telling about that poster? All the posters that have come out for that, not one of them mentions a broadcaster on it. Have you noticed that? That one and all the others, they all mention with the site, the location. They got 258 on the Matchroom, U6 17 promotions and everything, but not one of them says anything about a broadcaster.
Interesting. I never noticed that. Good spot.
So, I mean, while obviously we know that the Lifetime DAZN deal is happening, I guess maybe there's something else that could be in the works, so we're not sure of moving forward. So this literally might be like one certain thing, and then DAZN has everything else, or maybe they just said let's just not put it on the poster right now because we don't need to. Who knows? But I just thought that's a interesting tell. But yeah.
Okay. Well, been a pleasure as always.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for rocking out with us on this very special episode. We will be back to the live chats and everything in due course. With regard to that, so hopefully everyone's been in the chat, talking amongst us while this has been happening. And yeah, what we will do is we will check all of that on a replay. We'll check what everyone's had to say. We'll address whatever we can on the very next episode of the breakdown. And as you can see, Tony has graciously put on the in the link below. You can see my socials there. My channel, BaseDaKID, the Hardcore Casual. I've got new content coming all the time. I've got a few more videos that will be dropping this week, so please check that out. As you can see on Twitter, B_A_S_E. My Instagram, BaseDaKID. I don't really post a huge amount on there, and it's not really boxing related. But if you want the boxing stuff, definitely go to the Twitter. But yeah, thanks very much for watching on my side. Tony, hit them with your bits and pieces.
Yep. So thank you very much, guys. Don't forget, we'll have the Travis and KG pod on Thursday. They'll probably do a pre-recorded show as well, I would imagine. So yeah, that will be going on Thursday. See you guys next Monday for Monday Night Smoke. And from me, I'm out.
For me, I'm out. Bless up.
Okay.
Speak to you guys soon.
Bye for now.